Welcome to this week's episode of Read My Lips. I am really excited because I am joined in the studio today, and you look so excited. But I am joined in the studio today with my parents. So thank you for coming in. I know you were super excited to come in. So thank you very much for coming in and sitting down and speaking with us. What I am going to do is, I know that you've both picked a book or an author that we're going to be talking about today. So I will start to go through those in a second. And then obviously what we're going to do is look at the Sunday Times, and not only the Sunday Times bestsellers. This is quite exciting because it's the last one of the year. Sunday Times have actually taken on board all of the readers' suggestions and the audience and everybody else, and picked these books because they're the best ones of the year. So not just obviously best ones. I know they do things like obviously the hardbacks and paperbacks and so on. But these ones are the ones that they've picked throughout the year. So I'm super excited to go through those ones. But more importantly, and the reason that I wanted to have obviously you guys in the studio today was because from my own book's point of view, obviously you guys have always given me the kind of the enthusiasm and the encouragement to write. So, that I thought was really important to have you guys in the studio, because you're my biggest proofreader, my biggest fans. So thank you very much for being in here with me today. So I'll go over to you for if you want to pick up your book that you've picked. Linda LaPlante. So I know obviously we've spoken about this, but before. But why do you like Linda LaPlante? Why specifically? And this is actually quite funny, because one of the things that I remember growing up is you reading and me constantly going, "Mum, Mum," and you were like in a book and you were totally drawn into it. So I guess obviously from a Linda LaPlante's point of view, why is she kind of the one that stands out more than anybody else?
Well, that's the reason, because once you start, you just can't put them down.
It's drawn in.
Just want to find out, where it goes and how it ends. So just keep reading.
And I think from her point of view as well, and I didn't realise this, I actually did a little bit of research, which I know you probably already know, but I didn't know that she actually created Prime Suspect and Widows. I didn't realise that obviously she did both of those, and that she trained at RADA. So, again, there's that kind of the actor bit behind it, as well as obviously the writing, which is pretty incredible. And she became the first layperson given an honorary fellowship by the Forensic Science Society. But the other thing that I think is quite interesting, you said obviously that you quite like the way that she goes into a lot of the detail when she's, telling her stories. And again, from the researcher's point of view, it says that she actually does so much of her own research, that she goes and speaks to not necessarily criminals, but she goes and does all the kind of the legal work behind it, and goes into a lot of depth. So
so you get a lot of information about how things work, how they track the criminals down. It's just it's amazing.
Yeah. And she's, obviously she's been writing for quite a while as well, isn't she?
I think I've got all her books. Loads of them.
All of them.
Yeah.
But that I think is nice. If you've got like a long history of, all of the different books she's written, I love that. And also, again, so you said you've got quite a lot of her books. Do you know how many books she's actually written in total?
Oh, gosh. I don't know.
No.
But
so she's written 50 books to date, but she sold 15 million. So it's quite interesting actually that she's written so many in different, I think it was 35 different languages, obviously she's had them translated into as well, but I thought the 15 million would be slightly higher, bearing in mind she's written 50, but again, I know she's so many people, especially in one of her other books as well, she's got a lot of all the kind of the praises from other authors as well, so not just liked by you, but by other authors as well.
She's really amazing. It's as I say, I think I must have the 50 books.
Quite a few of them.
Loads of them. They're brilliant. I'll just wait for the next one to come out. And
I promise you, I will finish it, because I know that you have told me, and I actually bought it back to give to you.
The series Widows was really good as well. Yeah, watch that.
So one to watch, one to read and one to watch.
Yeah, Jane Tennyson.
So Linda LaPlante, one to watch for. So I know that you picked Dan Brown. Why do you like Dan Brown, and why his particular stories? I mean, I know you mentioned about Da Vinci Code as well, but from his point of view, why?
Excuse me. I think I hadn't read many books for a long time, but then for some reason, the first one, the Da Vinci Code, gave me an interest, I suppose, because what is the code, and a lot of it is based in Paris and that sort of thing. So I don't know, that seemed to be the starter for it.
Yeah.
And whereas in the past I'd tended to read a few pages of a book, and then when it came to bedtime, you put it down, and then I didn't pick it up again.
Then you have to call it back again.
Yes, with the Dan Brown ones, it really is a case of you're reading it every opportunity you get.
Yeah, and I said you mentioned, I know obviously we spoke about this earlier, but you were saying about, you know, of the books you've read as well, people like Alex Cross and James Patterson, and they're very similar, aren't they? Where I know they go into it a little bit more detail, but very similar to kind of a Dan Brown when they're looking at solving certain things. Or
yeah, I think the Alex Cross ones, they tend to be, I think they're based in the United States, and they do tend to be quite violent ones.
Yeah.
Now, these ones, obviously there are murders and things involved in it as well, but it doesn't seem to be quite as aggressive. It's not sort of gang warfare or anything like that. It's looking at all the clues and him trying to work out or trace somebody based on all the clues that they've left.
Yeah.
Not necessarily intentionally, but yes, they do obviously leave these little things behind, and he picks up on those.
And the different
but the detail he
places,
goes into with all the medical side of some things, his knowledge seems extreme.
I think that's the problem, isn't it? Well, not the problem. The nice thing, I think, even between Linda LaPlante and Dan Brown, is that they both go into so much research and depth, and they take the time to properly look at, you know, certain clues or codes or things. That's why people go, well, actually, I've read the chapter and I now want to know this, or I now want to know that. It draws you into reading the next one and the next one. Yeah. So I think that's the difference. Would you ever swap? Would you read a Linda LaPlante and you read a Dan Brown, or no?
No, he hasn't read a Linda LaPlante because I have most of her books and he has never picked any up. So,
there you go. Then maybe that's the thing. Then maybe you both have to kind of do a swap, and you read a Dan Brown one and you read a Linda
I
LaPlante
just
one.
like a good murder. So
He's like,
thanks. Yeah.
So, well, maybe I'm going to try that then. I'll see if you guys can swap books then and do that. And again, you probably already know this, and his latest one we featured a couple of episodes ago, but he was a musician and a teacher before becoming a best-selling author, which, again, I found, you know, quite interesting. But he was inspired by Sidney Sheldon and co-wrote a humour book under a pseudonym and has a fascination with science versus religion. So again, that kind of shows in a lot of, like, all of his different ones, doesn't it? A lot of the places. I think wasn't the one, I don't know whether it was the Da Vinci Code, but a lot of it was in Italy as well, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So that's quite interesting. And I think a lot of the films, shouldn't say this because obviously the books are always better than the films, but the film was very good when it was filmed in Italy.
Better to read the book first and then see the film.
Yes, I mean, who's actually been inside the Vatican?
Oh, yeah.
So, of course, they describe the different areas, all where the Pope lives and that sort of thing. So you find out a lot more than you would ever actually see.
Yeah. Which is, I mean, I'm trying to, we'll go on to Freedom McFadden in a second as well, but obviously her book, that's due out Boxing Day. So again, from her point of view, I'd love to watch that, or I'd love to read that one before it comes out as the film, because then I think the characters are going to be completely different. But that's...
you've got your own idea of what you think.
Yeah.
Versus... you've got somebody else, and the other way around, it doesn't work for me, so...
No, they're always completely different, aren't they? So, and again, from Dan Brown's point of view, he taught English at Phillips Exeter Academy, and he attended the same prep school that was inspired to write thrillers as Secret Service visit sparked his interest in codes, according to the Britannia article. So again, very kind of, not sci-fi, but very kind of intrigued into codes, solving mysteries and crimes. So, and he has, how many do you reckon he sold to date?
I think
more than Linda
it's in millions, but I don't know how many millions.
250 million.
Is it?
Yeah. So quite a few more. That's why I was kind of surprised, because I thought, well, he's obviously not written as many as she has, but yet 250 million copies. I was pretty amazed by that one. So, but both, I think, obviously, again, both really good, sort of quite well-known ones. So what we are going to do, just quickly before I go into the bestsellers, and this is obviously non-book related. Well, it could be, but I ask all of the authors that normally come on, what is the one author that you would take on a desert island with you, or not necessarily take? Who would you like to be stranded with on a desert island? One author,
Alive or dead?
Entirely up to you. I know you like a good crime, but entirely up to you. Which author?
Well, I think Agatha
And
Christie.
why? Okay.
Because I always liked her books. That's what started me off on murders.
There you go then.
There you go.
But what if there was to be a murder on the island? That could be quite worrying.
Well,
if it was just
if
the
we're
two
on
of
a
you.
desert island, there'd only be the two of us, so it would be me that was murdered.
Okay, no, that's interesting. And what would be the one thing that you would take?
My dog.
I did actually think I knew you was going to say
You noticed
that.
I wasn't included.
No, I know. It's not fair, is it?
Oh, come on, I'm trying to get away.
And who would the author be that you would like to go to a desert island with? Or be stranded on a
there are
desert
only
island?
really two that I've read many of their books. So Alex Cross and Dan Brown.
Yep.
Alex Cross being the American one,
Yeah.
I think I would go with the Dan Brown. Now, yes.
Probably be quite
It'd
interesting,
be,
wouldn't it?
yeah, I
Probably
think it'd be very interesting to his logic for his approach to things and the detail.
Puzzles.
Yeah.
You do puzzles all day.
Yeah. See, there you go. But could be quite interesting. I wouldn't mind that. And the one thing would you take on a desert island? Doesn't have to be an author.
A puzzle book. That's puzzle.
Sudoku.
But how long would...
Yes,
well,
Sudoku.
Yeah, I do like Sudoku, but it's a case of if you're on an island for how long,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter how many books you take with you, the chances are you're going to finish
They will
them.
run out,
So,
Golf bat. Club.
Golf bat.
how about a helicopter?
Yeah, no, there you go. Yeah, that could work. I quite like that. But no, I mean, I think they're both really good. But they're really good authors.
Yeah.
So, what I am going to do is I'm going to go through these, and don't worry if you haven't heard of some of these or you haven't had the chance to read them, because obviously some of these are fairly new, even though they are the Sunday Times bestsellers of the year. But the first one here, which I find quite interesting. So Rebecca Yarros, I actually hadn't come across her before, but I've just got to say the cover designs, and I'm going to go on to the second one as well, but both of her books were voted in the best-selling books for the year. So I think this is quite interesting, and something I'm going to go through on a couple of these as well is that she's got a new one that's just been released, which is called Onyx Storm. And again, it sold a huge amount. I'm going to kind of go through this in a little bit more detail, but I'm quite intrigued by Rebecca Yarros because she was actually an online phenomenon. So a lot of people on TikTok, I know you guys haven't got TikTok, but she was actually a phenomenon from TikTok, and people just, some of her videos got so many views. But interestingly enough from her, so that's kind of... Fourth Wing, and then Iron Flame again. I mean, not being funny, if you were stuck on a desert island, you were just talking about how many books.
Yeah.
It is such a big book.
Wow.
It would take you ages to get through. But again, from that one's point of view as well, they're so nicely designed. But what I thought was interesting about her is that her husband is a military hero, and she began writing at night during his deployment. So she obviously had a lot of time on her hands, and started obviously writing, but they were very much military themed books, and that's how Flight and Glory, the whole series Flight and Glory, came about. So they are very long, they're very extensive. But one of the things that I also found about her as well is that, and this also makes me laugh, so she's actually a mum to 6 children. So how she found the time to write some of these very, very big books with 6 children. She has 4 sons who play hockey, keeping her busy at the rink, and she loves playing guitar and has English bulldogs. So from my point of view, because I love my bulldogs, I instantly loved her as an author. But not only that, what I did find quite interesting is that she also, with her husband, co-founded a non-for-profit organisation in 2019, and that was to help children in the foster care system. So she's obviously a very busy author, writing children, husband being obviously very much a military thing. But what I found also quite interesting is that she sold 12 million copies in less than 2 years. So she only really, so by February 2025, she's a very, very new author, but already sold 12 million copies, which
when you consider that the book is nearly 800 pages and it's quite small print.
Yeah.
There's a lot to read in there, isn't there?
Yeah. So I think
value for money.
Yeah. But she's very, I went into Waterstones earlier on in the week, and there was just so many, obviously there's books everywhere, isn't there, everywhere you go. But her books were on all of the displays. They were on quite a few of the tables. So many people were picking it up. So I think, I know it's very soon. It's only been the last couple of years, but she seems to be rapidly growing as an author. So, yeah, I found that one quite interesting. So, another one to watch out for. Now, the next one, Frida McFadden. So I actually had a Frida McFadden book, which was The Intruder, on a couple of episodes ago. And I was basically telling people how I'd kind of read a couple of chapters and I was a bit like, okay. But then after the first 2 chapters, it got really good. And this one again, I know again it was voted by the audience for the Sunday Times, but also more importantly because obviously she has her book coming out, or the film coming out to this on Boxing Day. I just thought it was actually quite good to, and the reason that I think this has been so popular has purely because there's been a lot of like twists and turns, a lot of things that people hadn't quite seen. So from that point of view, house-made, but more interestingly, from Frida McFadden's point of view, so she is a best-selling author, but she's actually a practicing physician. So she's got a big interest in things like the psychology behind it, and people that are slightly strange, certain, the psychology behind it, basically. But the other thing that's really interesting is that because obviously she has a lot of patients, and she's recently given up the kind of the physician piece and concentrating now full time on her writing. But if you actually look at her, she keeps her identity semi-secret. So she wears a wig and glasses for public appearances to protect her patient's privacy. So I'm quite interested by her as an author because I think it's funny that she's obviously, every time she goes in and she does guest appearances or interviews, she's got a wig and glasses. So now every time I see her in something, I kind of look at and think, well, who is the real Frida McFadden? So
would you recognise her if you saw her?
No, well, that's what I mean, because it's so clever nowadays. Maybe is she wearing contact lenses? Well, obviously she's wearing glasses in a lot of things, but I don't. How different does she look? But very interesting.
There isn't there isn't a photograph of her in there, is there?
No. Of course. So her wig is sort of like shoulder, sort of bob length, brown hair, glasses. But yeah, I would love to know who the real Frida McFadden is.
There you go.
So she draws on her medical background for realistic, twisty thrillers with obviously The Housemaid, obviously the new one that is coming out. She has a maths major from Harvard, so she's, again, a very intelligent lady, but she found writing easier than her medical finals. So maybe that's where her passion went to. Also, Frida McFadden is not her real name, that is her pen name. Yeah. So who knows who she is, but it's her psychiatric father who pushed her literary fiction. So from his kind of interest in that space, that's where she moved over. So again,
sounds interesting.
Yes, very good. So that should be another one that I think she's very new as well. I'm not sure if I had it here, but again, a couple of episodes ago, again, she sold quite a few million copies of her book, very new. Yeah, so again, another one to watch out for. And I quite like her book covers. So even though those ones are really pretty, I also quite like those ones because they're quite, you think, well...
Is that her eye?
Yeah, exactly. So lots of different questions there. So I would quite like to go through hers. So on to the next one, A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. So a little while ago, probably about 6 months ago, I hadn't heard of her, but then I kept seeing her again on TikTok, on Instagram. If you actually go to Smith's now, it has a section and it says influenced by social media, and she is probably number 1, number 2, number 3. There are so many of her books, and everybody loves her. But again, her covers are great, but this I really, really like about her as an author, because so each one of her books, there's 2 or 3 of them, and they've got really colourful cover designs, but she's built it on the understanding of almost like a multiverse. So each one is sort of entwined within the others. So I quite like the way that she's written them, but she actually started writing the Throne of Glass series at 16. So from a very, very young age, she started that. She's a huge Sailor Moon fan fiction writer, and she almost became a marine biologist before becoming the New York Times best-selling author for her epic fantasy worlds and relatable romance. So even though it's a different genre to J.K. Rowling, I just find that her writing is very similar in that she's got such a great imagination, and she talks about so many different areas, and they're all, kind of entangled together. So have a guess for how many she has sold.
Well, of all the books, or just any particular?
All of her books to date.
Millions?
75 million copies. Which is crazy. So again, because obviously she started at 16, but from her point of view, she says that in high school she was obsessed with writing Sailor Moon fan fiction, and her wish for magic was that she was genuinely disappointed on her 16th birthday that no magical creature appeared to tell her she had powers. I think maybe, do we all do that? But she, again, like I said, before writing fantasy, she aspired to be a marine biologist. So I think she's got an interesting kind of background, but then obviously with her writing as well, it's all kind of intermingled together. So yeah, I quite like her, and I think again she'll be quite a rising one. So yeah, one to watch out for. And I don't know how many times people say about her surname being different, Mars, or so. But and then that brings us on to the final one, Peter James. I have actually started following him on Instagram, and he's hilarious. He has done so many different sort of memes, reels, all sorts of things. He's really pushing, his latest one, which is The Hawk is Dead.
Yeah.
I know you guys both have heard of him, haven't you? But Peter James, Hawk is Dead. Now, I like him not only because he is quite funny and he's quite quirky, but he also has had, and I know you'll love this, but basically his, going back to 1994, he published the novel Host on a floppy disk, which I thought, wow, how many authors now can go right back to kind of floppy disks in 1994? And he was a media spokesperson for electronic publishing. So I love the fact that he, has been around for a long, long time. He's written an awful lot of books. But more importantly, he's a car enthusiast, and he has so many lovely cars, which, again, I know that we obviously all like cars, but he has such a passion for criminology. So again, from his point of view, he goes into a lot of depth. I didn't realise that he was discovered, obviously he'd written quite a few books, but he claims that he wrote a lot of books. But it was actually when Camilla Parker Bowles was doing she was speaking, and one of his books was on the shelf in the background, and that's how people then suddenly went, oh wow, Peter James. And she had written him a letter saying how much she loved his books, and that's kind of how he then really started to pick up in terms of. So we know that obviously the royal family love Peter James. I love him, and I would love him to come on one of the episodes of Read My Lips. So if you're listening, Peter James, please can you come on Read My Lips, because that would be amazing.
But to get praise from James Patterson and Angela Rippon, and that's well-known people.
Yeah.
And it's obviously very good, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think, again, obviously it's a hard copy, it's a bigger book, but again, it's, if you relate that to probably one of Rebecca Yarros's again, it's quite a big book, and it probably take you quite a while. But I do love his writing style. So a couple of things from his point of view. Massive UK crime author, famous for his Roy Gray series. Again, I didn't realise that obviously he'd written a lot of series and television and so on. He was a former film producer, loves fast cars, invests in tech, and has a unique writing routine. He often starts late at night with a martini to write thousands of words. So I don't know whether perhaps maybe you can relate that in some of the chapters. But
Well, it lubricates, doesn't it? Yeah,
yeah, but maybe it helps
the martini makes things flow a little bit better.
Yeah, exactly. I'm surprised he wasn't the author of James Bond, because that would have been a good
maybe
fit.
that's how he started.
Yeah.
No.
But no, I love the fact that obviously, like I said, he started obviously his publishing novel with floppy disks. I think that's quite a thing that he's obviously gone through from that to writing on pen, with pen and paper, to then some of the more traditional publishing, or some of the publishing that it's probably gone through so many iterations.
I remember floppy disks well.
Yeah, that's why I thought you'd quite like that one. Another interesting fact about him: so he grew up in Brighton, but he was the son of the Queen's former glove maker, Cornelia Jones.
Oh, right.
I thought that was quite an interesting fact as well from his point of view. I know that he loves to talk about obviously the paranormal, and he does a lot of intense police research. So it fits in quite nicely with your kind of your Linda LaPlante and all your crime investigations. His Roy Gray series, again, how many do you reckon he sold of those?
Oh, it's got to be millions.
23 million copies sold worldwide. And obviously that is just purely the Roy Gray series. He has also been the winner of the prestigious CWA Diamond Dagger for his lifetime achievement, and voted Best Crime Author of All Time by Smith's Readers in 2015, which again surprises me, because I know that obviously James Patterson, I know they're not British, they're obviously American. But again, James Patterson, Peter James, I felt like they were similar in the way that they kind of write. Lee Child again is another one who's again very, very good from the kind of crime piece. But again, going back to his previous work experience, he worked as a screenwriter and producer in North America before focusing on novels, and it involved films like The Merchant of Venice and The Bridge of San Luis Rey. So I think from his point of view as well, he's got quite a vivid imagination, and he goes into quite a bit of detail in each one. So yeah, all really, really good ones. So that kind of draws me to the end, really, just to say thank you for coming in. I know this isn't going to be the last one. You're going to come back in again, aren't you? Come back and join me again. But yeah, interesting
when we've
to see.
read all the books. Yeah.
I think you need to read the books first, and then come back in again.
Take me.
I don't know.
Take a while, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I know that I've kind of given you a couple of the others. So the Dan Brown ones and the Lee Child ones.
So I can forget about housework, and I can just sit and read.
Yeah, exactly.
Lovely.
And then next time I will be quizzing you on some of the books, I think, rather than some of the authors and their pieces.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd love to have you back in again. We'll have to do like a review, and next time I probably will do like a challenge or something when you do come back. And I'll ask better questions as well. I won't prep you next time. Next time there'll be questions that I'll just kind of throw you in.
Okay. It'll be me and my dog reading books.
Well, maybe you can bring the dog in next time.
Oh, God.
But no, thank you very much for coming in. Lovely to go through those, and check out the next series of Read My Lips.